Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to the South breakout session. Without leaving any more time, I welcome Vijayanand sir to give the opening note to the South region. Vijayanand sir is the ex-Chief Secretary of Kerala State and also the steering committee member of the National Coalition of Natural Farming. Welcome, sir. Welcome, Vijayanand sir. Please.
Friends, I made my opening remarks earlier, so I'm not repeating them. We are all pioneers, and the work of pioneer is there are both advantages and disadvantages. As pioneers, we are enthusiastic, we are discovering, we are very eager, but we'll also face a lot of problems because the path has to be broken by us. So we should have that mission. But the advantages, there are certain advantages in southern states when all the 5 states are quite developmental. So they are willing to listen to ideas, experiment new development ideas. They are not very conservative. And the civil society NGO density is quite high. And many state governments work very closely with civil society organizations, NGOs, etc. But the most important strength of the southern states is the strength of SHGs. Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, all of them, Karnataka, all of them have SHGs. Some of them have outstanding international quality, like Kudumbashree. So that is again a big advantage. And relative to rest of India, the panchayats are very strong. They're extremely strong in Karnataka and Kerala and do a lot of local development. So we have the right situation for all of this. And of course, Andhra is a big player now in natural farming. Tamil Nadu, interestingly, the new government has announced a policy, a priority for this farming. And similarly in Kerala, it is getting traction. And I read in one of those messages that Kerala has got this slightly more amount than many southern states for the BKPP project. So, which means they are all coming up. Surely other states also will are also coming up. So when we are working in the field, we have to be, as was mentioned in the morning, very, very rooted in the local situation and listen to the farmers, their issues, and address them. Because when I talk to people in Kerala, they come out with a lot of local issues. We can't ignore them. We need to have solutions, and we learn together. Though we may work locally, think globally, work locally, and work together. So it's a learning process till now, though Andhra has gone ahead considerably, but together we have to learn. And another important thing, we document from the beginning. What are the issues? What went wrong? What went right? So this documentation is very important because we are being challenged. Show evidence. So we need to show evidence right from the start. And as I mentioned, we have to share the learnings, both positive and negative. So only then we can advance. And now we have the Zoom advantage, so we don't have to physically meet. Very often we meet and share our thoughts. And as was mentioned in the morning, unless it is a people's movement, a farmers' movement, agricultural workers participating, unless it is a people's movement, pushed by NGOs, supported by government, this will be very slow. So with that request, I close my opening remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Vijayanand sir. Thank you very much for on the opening note for the South session. And I request all, if you would like to open the video, you can, because this is a community initiative. So you can all switch on the video if you would like. And if you would like to keep it off, you can. And by this, I hand over the session to the moderator, Swati Renduchandala from RYSS. And she's the moderator for the South region session. And I officially hand it over to Swati. Welcome, Swati.
Thank you, Kurin. Andarki namaskaram. Na peru Swati. I am working as a project executive in Andhra Pradesh Community Managed Natural Farming Program and able to give my little time to National Coalition as well. It was such a pleasure to hear Vijayanand sir, right from the days of NRLM when you were helming the Rural Development Department in the country to here. It has been a journey, sir, and thank you for that opening statement. So when we thought of convening this 2 hours time for Southern Coalition, we realized that there is so much of talks to be done and so much this Southern Coalition, that is a terminology we are using, can actually do as compared to so for that we thought that rather than divesting our time into the videos which can be propagated, let us have discussions, let this be the starting point of a Southern Coalition discussion where we bring partners on board and we hear partners. So that was the idea. So I hope the next 1.5 hours we'll be able to hear as many voices as possible. We start with the by taking an overview of the 5 states in South India and understand what is happening in each state, because the diversity is immense. It's the language, dialect, the kind of community work that has happened. I think the diversity is immense and it's essential for us to understand that. So I'm hoping the next 1 hour or 45 minutes will be looking into an overview of all the 5 states, along with hearing champion farmers, hearing the stories from the grassroots. The next 45 minutes, because we are running crunch of time, so next 45 minutes we will look into how we will hear from all the partners present here in 2-3 minutes on what they are doing and how they can contribute to this agenda of Southern Coalition, the National Coalition, or this movement, as Vijay Anand sir said, of natural farming. How do we contribute at individual level, at organization level, at coalition level, at community level? How can we really take, and this discussion, this 2 hours we want to spend into initiating that discussion, so that after we go out of here, we have at least a rough idea of what potential that Southern Coalition can hold and how it can lead this natural farming movement in the country. So saying that, I'm really looking forward, and I request you, because we are a diverse group, you can speak in your native language. There would be people who, there is no bars on the language, because I think we need to respect this diversity. When we are talking about natural farming, we are talking about diversity, right? Nature is diverse, so let us celebrate that. So on that note, I want to call upon Ramanjanil sir from CSA, Center for Sustainable Agriculture. I think he needs no introduction. He has been pioneering the non-pesticide management in Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and in the country. So over to you, Ramu sir. Looking forward for the overview on Telangana.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, all. I'm Ramanjanelu from Center for Sustainable Agriculture. We work in various states, including Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Maharashtra, Punjab, Sikkim, Tripura, Nagaland, Manipur, all that we work on. And CSA started its journey 16 years back, and today we work with nearly about 25,000 farmers who are into fully organic, and nearly about another 50,000 farmers who are part of various cooperatives who are also in transition. And in Telangana, particularly focusing on, our focus is to bring in more villages under organic farming. Because the whole crisis in Telangana, if you look at the agrarian crisis, where there were a large number of farmer suicides, they were all result of high use of agrochemicals and shift towards more intensive crop production like paddy and cotton. Today, paddy and cotton occupies nearly about 70% of the cropped area, and then they use more water, more energy, more chemicals kind of. So we try to look at bringing a transition in this, and focus is on the villages. Beyond individual farmers, so focus is also on villages. So we had few villages which could transit completely into organic farming, and in Telangana, historically when the state was united, there was a very good participation of the government also. So we worked together with the government, and we could bring in the community managed sustainable agriculture program along with the partnership of SERP, and pesticide use could be reduced on a fairly large scale. But unfortunately, after the state got separated, these initiatives could not go forward. Currently, there are very minor initiatives by the state government in terms of promoting organic or natural farming through PKVY program, and also through tribal areas. In tribal areas, some pockets, these programs are implemented, but beyond that, not much through the government side. But on the farmer side, there are a number of groups of the state. Apart from Center for Sustainable Agriculture, there are other organizations who are also into it. And Telangana state, another interesting thing is Telangana state itself wanted to bring in an organic certification agency which works with the farmers. And for the first of its kind, they offered for individual certifications also, because the organic certification agencies designed by other states largely got into the group certifications, not into individual certifications. And this is one of the cheapest in terms of certification. Telangana State Certification Agency, it is so they try to get some farmers on board, and then they are doing it. Apart from that, Center for Sustainable Agriculture, we also brought in a federation of organic farmers together, so who can market their produce directly to the consumers. It is called Sahaja Aharam. So in the name of Sahaja Aharam, we are able to market it through in Hyderabad and other places. CSA is also a regional council for organic certification. So we also offer PGS certification for production, processing, and livestock, beekeeping, and large area certification, all that CSA offers. And another interesting development which happened recently, it's not only for Telangana, but other states also. As part of that, this 10,000 FPOs scheme, which Government of India is implementing to farm, there are about 1,000 FPOs which are going to be fully organic. So there are 1,000 FPOs which are going to be fully organic. And over a period of 3 years, each FPO will have at least 2,000 farmers who transit to organic farming. So in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, CSA is implementing about 10 FPOs which are fully organic. And we are also a CBBO for about 40 organizations. And we are planning to make all these 40 into organic. So we are not limiting ourselves only to that 10, but the rest 30 also will move. So I see next 3 to 4 years will be a big shift in terms of transition towards organic farming. And CSA also works on various standardizing the production practices. So that's one of the core strength of CSA. So we publish regularly resource material. We also do online courses regularly. We also provide technical support to various agencies. And Grameen Academy is one initiative, grameenacademy.in. You can check the website. There will be regular courses which are offered and a lot of resource material which is available on the website. And CSA also publishes books and material in 5 Indian languages. Telugu, Hindi, English, Marathi, Bengali, and Nepali. So these are the languages in which material is available. You can check out on the website. Both CSA website and Grameen Academy website has the resource material. And whoever are interested can obviously contact us at any point of time for any help. We also provide technical support for organizations. We developed the say standard products for organic farming, so biofertilizers and biopesticides which can be made locally. So we supply the inoculum, and local entrepreneurs can multiply and apply. And we also do trainings and support mechanisms for organic food processing. Broadly, these are the things. At the state level, we are discussing now to form a network through the Food Processing Society. So there is a initiative, Telangana government has announced a food processing policy. So as part of that, we are also trying to get a network which can work on the organic and natural farming kind of thing. Local markets were developed, but they couldn't sustain for long because the big urban farmers got into it, and then no spaces were provided for the small and marginal farmers, and they couldn't sustain and run for long. So that's what has happened in Hyderabad. But otherwise, this is a large scenario of Telangana.
Thank you so much, Ramu sir. One question before I go to Baba Mia Garu is that how do this idea of how these states, you can call it Southern Coalition or the Southern, all these 5 states with its immense social capital and the experience in natural farming, how can it really go forward and pioneer other states? How do we take it forward in a movement?
See, I think one of the key thing for forming a coalition is about mutual trust. And where we fail is we actually ditch that. Each one of us have their own personal agendas, personal ideologies, and then we don't agree with each other. And that's where actually the whole collapse is happening. I think one of the key thing to take it forward is about working together, keep aside differences, look at commonalities. There will be 99% commonality and there could be probably 1% variance. And we talk about respecting diversity, but we don't respect diversity. That's where the problem lies. So if we can leave aside that one, there is a lot to learn from each other. And the whole idea of cooperation is the cooperatives is about working together. So bring together strengths, not weaknesses. Many times, many attempts fail because we bring together our weaknesses together and leave aside our strengths. So obviously, when you leave aside strengths and then only bring weaknesses together, we cannot go forward. So many of the networks, many of the coalitions, many of the large initiatives in this country failed because of that. So like a historical saying, we don't learn from history. We don't learn from history. Always we do the mistake or we do a different mistake probably. So at least now if we can make an attempt to get over that, it will be quite good. And see, in all in AP Telangana itself, we have access to nearly about 1 lakh farmers. And so if 3-4 states come together, so CSA and a few more organizations and then few more states, if we can work together, there's a large access. But we try to look at how we differ rather than how we have a commonality. I think that's where is it. And one last advice for me from my side is about, see, these nomenclatures of natural farming, organic farming, or permaculture, biodynamic, these are all like gods. No? So whoever loves them, they name it differently. So don't fight based on the identities. Look at what actually they are and then learn from each other. And not as any of these single school of thought is not successful. So it's basically collectivizing these practices and then collectivizing these processes can help. So if you can do that, it will work. That's what would be my advice. And at any point of time, anyone is interested to understand any of these things, they can contact us. We will be very happy to contribute from our side. A network of growers and then the organizations working with the producers would be always be helpful. So if we can work together. But it needs some kind of formal arrangements which we need to make because of last several years, like I mentioned, people bring in differences rather than commonality. So based on the commonalities, we can get into some kind of arrangements where we can work together. Yeah. So if there are any questions,
thank you so much, sir.
Later also I can get back to you. Yeah. Thank you.
Definitely, we'll get back to you, sir, with more questions. I have Baba Mia ji from Telangana. Sir, आप online?
Hello.
Sir, namaste, sir. Hello. Baba Mia ji.
I have raised my hand.
Robert,
no,
sir.
I am Robert Leo. Sir, ma'am, actually just a couple of minutes because before my battery dies.
Sure, sure.
Sorry.
No
I
worries,
have
sir.
just 2 points to say, then I will close it quickly.
Sure, sir.
Shall I go?
Please go ahead, sir.
I am audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I represent Keystone from Tamil Nadu. Basically, organic farming, we promote with the indigenous communities. It's a default to most of these practices are by tradition and nature, it is organic. My point here is, I could see the farms across India. They are trying their level best, but one aspect is still not given importance. That means pollination, because all natural farming you need a good pollinators present. The deficient pollination is not understood by many of the farmers. They do a lot of good practices, but this aspect is missing. So maybe your alliance can have some important or a thrust to take up this activity as a pollination. In general, people talk about beekeeping. Bees are good because they are large in number and they are global pollinators. But however, more than bees, there are thousands of insects like solitary bees and also other insects. So through the alliance, if you bring up focus on how to identify pollinators, how to promote pollinators, how to conserve their habitat, and also information and knowledge sharing on this pollination. So I think that is the only point I would like to say, because most of the other technical aspects, many of us, because of their experience and all, they could understand and they can definitely take it forward. But this is my one single point. I thought, I will say it and I want to close it. Is it?
Thank you, sir.
Anybody
I think
wants?
that was a very crucial point, and we hope you stay by the end of the discussion and participate.
Ma'am, I will come back
Babu
again
Miyaji,
because
sure, definitely.
the thing is the pesticide and the thing which they have been used is completely against the pollination pollinators diversity. So
Yes.
I will come back again. I
Sure.
will try to recharge our I'm on my cell phone. Sorry about it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir. So I am searching for Babu Miyaji. We're trying to reach out to him, but I think we'll move ahead.
Yep.
I have with me Jaikumar sir from Thanal, Kerala. Jaikumar sir, over to you.
Yep.
Looking forward to hear you on the Kerala overview on what is work happening in Kerala and how do we take, as Ramu sir also answered, how do we take ahead the Southern Coalition? If you can manage it in 4-5 minutes, sir, it will be great. Thank you.
Great, great. Thank you, sir. I would really hope that I can do it in much lesser time. I'm not sure. Anyway, thank you, everyone, and thank you for taking it forward, even including all the technical glitches and other problems. Anyway, so I think in one shot, Kerala is a highly educated, highly motivated society. So way back in 1980. When the first time the One Straw Revolution was published, one of the artists who brought the copy to Kerala was the beginning, in a sense, of what the modern, what we are talking in terms of natural farming or organic farming or agroecology, as it's broadly said. There was a Malayalam translation by my professor, Professor John C. at that time in Suji Mugi, published by Seek, and that was reaching a large what you call spectrum of environmental activists, nature lovers and all, and then later Padabhedam, which is more of a social activist group and much more politically oriented group, brought a popular translation of One Straw Revolution. So in the early 80s to middle 80s, you have a lot of conversation in Kerala around this natural farming and Masunuba Fukuoka, and it was quite funny to see that there were several people asking for clover and all the kind of Japanese plants which Masunuba planted, because we right away want to get plunged into organic farming. That is the history, where the history starts in Kerala. We have a large number of local groups starting initiatives on its own, and also you can see a large number of activists supporting local farmers coming together. So there may be 5 or 10 farmers coming together and selling it locally. So you have a much more larger people's movement in a sense on organic farming, or there are, even you can call it different schools. I just stick to agroecology or natural farming, etc. Then we also have a very unique situation where the academia, especially the universities, the colleges, and I'm talking more about the general, like Mahatma Gandhi University, which runs certificate course and a diploma course and a degree course on organic farming. So there is a whole bunch of initiatives from a larger mainstream society. And you can also see that many Indian, Kerala activists who are in Madhya Pradesh or in Maharashtra or in Orissa or in other places were constantly bringing that lessons to Kerala, and there were several small startups. And it is also quite interesting that from 2002, we had this Kerala poised a whole discussion about the poisoning of endosulfan in Kerala, which again created a positive feedback of the 2006 Achyutanandan government pushing significantly for pesticide-free farming in Kerala. And the chief minister was very vocal. The agriculture minister was very vocal. And we also had the state biodiversity board, which was triggering a policy instrument for that. And finally, in 2009, we got this organic farming policy for the state, which had a vision of converting the entire food crop farming to organic farming. That is probably the policy thing which came in. And if you look at the work, the NRLM also contributed. Like I'm sure we know this here from Maitri, they innovated with the support of Jaykumar from Kerala Agriculture University. They innovated what we call Green Army, which was in a major innovation in creating or meeting the local labor issues and coming up with a very skilled technical, partly mechanized group which could do farming on a call. Like you can call them, like we have family farms in Thrissur, we call the Green Army group, and they come and do the transplanting. They do everything. You just need to be there and work with, and at the end of it, you feel very happy as you got all the support. Again, if you very specifically look at agroecology, we had we call him Annan Dayal, who was who turned out to be a biodynamic farmer again in the late 80s, who started this larger statewide movement for setting up farming, and that resulted in what we call the Kerala Organic Farmers Association, which was again Kerala Jaiva Karshaka Samiti, which was a backbone for pushing the organic farming movement in Kerala. It also was the first time, probably unlike the other smaller groups, you suddenly have a political clarity on what is organic farming, what is biodynamic farming, why it is important, why you need to look at issues like nutrition, the integrity of food you are eating, the nutritional integrity of the food we are eating was first time talked by Sri Dayal in the early 90s. When you look back, the larger organized movement as organic farming in Kerala resulted from two streams. One is by Jaiva Karshaka Samiti of Dayal, and then by Subhash Palekarji when he came to Kerala for running his workshops on ZBNF, and that resulted in ZBNF groups formed in Kerala. And we are very Gopalan, who was the book yesterday and who is a very active NF farmer. He is one of the star ZBNF farmer in Wayanad, and Wayanad group is one of the successful group which is able to maintain the integrity of ZBNF in that sense. And for want of time, I really don't want to get into more details, but today we have a very clear situation where you have this larger mainstream support for national farming. You have the cooperative banks, you have the Kudumbashrees, you have smaller academics, even the NSS units, scouts and NCC units. So in Kerala, we have this Nallabadam by Madhurumi and Seeds by Nallabadam by Manorama and Madhuru, Seeds by Madhurumi, two major publishers or newspaper groups which is running the school education program. So you see all these people pushing natural farming broadly in a sense for creating awareness and contributing to school meals. And we have more than 800 schools which provide to school midday meals using vegetables grown by the students in the school themselves. So there are quite successful models of many of these things. And one of the major lacuna we had was we can say that out of the 1,400 agriculture officers in Kerala, we have over 300 agriculture officers who are very keen on innovations and who are collaborating with local farmers and moving the agenda of agroecology or natural farming or even Vriksha Ayurveda, all different schools by each agriculture officer was also an interesting phenomenon. But the tragedy is that the mainstream agriculture department is totally opposed to it. And we have Mahatma Gandhi University, a major university offering certificate courses and courses on organic farming, but the agriculture university till recently was refusing to do any, even using the word natural organic farming in the university was a bit of a taboo until 4 years back. And now there is a change we have a couple of agriculture professors who are also showing little more interest and doing experiments in pushing local community and working with local farmers. And that could be very broadly where I can sum up what is happening in Kerala. And it is in a very critical position where you have the cooperative banks lending small money and pushing organic farming, which may not be happening in many other places. And there are again different schools run by different. There is panchayats lending money and pushing agriculture, organic agriculture. There are also panchayats which have fixed floor price for organic products, and I mean, you are assured a income of it is again more like a commodity price. You have a floor price, and if the price fall below that, the panchayat will procure and sell it in the local market. So it is very many interesting models are being experimented in Kerala, and I don't want to take more time, so I'll stop here, and I'll be only happy to share more for anybody who is interested, and we have enough documents on that. Thank you, Swadhi, and thank you for everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. Jaykumar sir. I think we are waiting to hear from Kumaran ji. PK Kumaran ji, are you there? And I would require support from Kurian and Jaykumar sir if language is a barrier.
Oh, sure, no issues. I can definitely translate. Kumaran will be a great
PK Kumaran sir.
blessing.
കുമാരേട്ടൻ അവിടെ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ആ ഓഡിയോയുടെ സ്വിച്ച് ഒന്ന് ഞെക്കിയിട്ട് ഇഫ് പറ്റുമെങ്കിൽ വീഡിയോയുടെ സ്വിച്ചും കൂടെ ഒന്ന് ഞെക്കി. പി കെ കുമാരൻ സാർ ഉണ്ട്. ഉണ്ട്, അദ്ദേഹം വരുന്നുണ്ട്. ഹീസ് കമ്മിങ്.
ഹലോ,
നമസ്കാരം കുമാരൻ സാർ, പറഞ്ഞോളൂ. പറ്റുവാണെങ്കിൽ ആ വീഡിയോയും കൂടെ ഒന്ന് ഓൺ ആക്കിയിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞോളൂ.
വീഡിയോ ഓൺ ആണ്.
ഹലോ, നമസ്കാരം.
നമസ്കാരം.
ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞാ പോരെ?
മതി മലയാളത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞാൽ മതി.
ഹലോ, ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞത് കേട്ടിരുന്നോ അതോ പിന്നെ അന്നേരം?
ഇല്ല, ഇപ്പൊ തുടങ്ങിക്കോളൂ.
എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. ഇന്നത്തെ ഈ പ്രോഗ്രാമിലേക്ക് എനിക്ക് വരാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞു സന്തോഷമുണ്ട്. പിന്നെ ഇതിൽ പറഞ്ഞ പല കാര്യങ്ങളും വളരെയധികം സന്തോഷം തോന്നുന്നു. കാരണം ഇന്ന് നാഷണൽ ലെവലില് പ്രകൃതി കൃഷി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നാച്ചുറൽ ഫാമിങ്ങിനെ എല്ലാവരും സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു, എല്ലാ സ്റ്റേറ്റിലും സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത് വളരെയധികം സന്തോഷം തോന്നുന്നു. അതിന് ഇത്രയും പേരുടെ ഒരു കൂട്ടായ ഒരു ശ്രമം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു വലിയ നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ഇതിന് പിന്നിൽ പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നു എന്ന് അറിഞ്ഞതും വളരെയധികം സന്തോഷം. അപ്പൊ അതിൽ എനിക്ക് പറയാനുള്ളത്, ഒരു സാധാരണ കൃഷിക്കാരൻ എന്നുള്ള നിലയ്ക്ക്, അതായത് അധികം വിദ്യാഭ്യാസമൊന്നും എനിക്കില്ല, പക്ഷെ എങ്കിലും നാച്ചുറൽ ഫാമിങ്ങിനെ പറ്റി സുഭാഷ് പാലേക്കർജിയുടെ 8 ദിവസത്തെ ഒരു ക്ലാസ് കേട്ടതിന് ശേഷമാണ് ഞാൻ 10 വർഷം മുന്നേ ഈ കൃഷിയിലേക്ക് തിരിഞ്ഞത്. ഈ കൃഷിയിലേക്ക് തിരിയുമ്പോൾ ആദ്യകാലത്തൊന്നും നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലോ ഇവിടെ ആരും തന്നെ പ്രകൃതി കൃഷിയെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുക അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതിനെ പ്രോത്സാഹിപ്പിക്കുകയോ ചെയ്തിരുന്നില്ല. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു കാലഘട്ടത്തിലാണ് ഞാനിത് തുടങ്ങിയത്. എന്നിരുന്നാലും ഈ കൃഷി നമുക്ക്, അതായത് മുൻകാലത്ത് ഞാൻ കെമിക്കൽ ഫാമിംഗ് ആണ് നടത്തിക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്നത്. അന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്ന ആ കെമിക്കൽ ഫാമിംഗ് നിർത്താനുള്ള പ്രധാന കാരണം, ആവശ്യം പൂനെയിൽ നിന്നൊരു ക്ലാസ്സിൽ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്തപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന കീടനാശിനികൾ എത്രത്തോളം അശ്രദ്ധമായിട്ടാണ് കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്യുന്നത് എന്നതിനെ പറ്റി വിശദമായ ഒരു ക്ലാസ് എനിക്ക് കിട്ടി. അന്ന് മുതൽ ഞാൻ ഈ കെമിക്കൽ കുറയ്ക്കാനുള്ള കൃഷി രീതിയെ പറ്റി അന്വേഷിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു. അങ്ങനെയാണ് യാദൃശ്യമായിട്ട് ഈ ഫാമിങ്ങിലേക്ക് തിരിയാൻ കാരണം. അപ്പൊ ഇതിൽ വന്നതിന് ശേഷം എൻ്റെ കൃഷിയിടത്തിൽ കുറഞ്ഞ സ്ഥലത്ത് ഞാൻ കൃഷി കുറേശ്ശെ ആരംഭിച്ചു. അതെല്ലാം ചെറിയ ചെറിയ കുഴപ്പങ്ങളുണ്ടെങ്കിലും 2-3 വർഷങ്ങൾ കൊണ്ട് എല്ലാ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾക്കും പരിഹാരം കാണാവുന്ന ഒരു കൃഷി രീതിയായി ഇതിനെ മാറ്റാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞു. കാരണം കൃഷിയുടെ മുഴുവൻ ചെലവുകളും കുറയ്ക്കാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞു എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഇതിന്റെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയൊരു കാര്യം. കാരണം അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് വളരെ കുറഞ്ഞ ചെലവിൽ നമ്മുടെ ഉൽപ്പന്നങ്ങൾ മാർക്കറ്റിൽ നല്ല വിലയ്ക്ക് വിൽക്കാനുള്ള ഒരു സാധ്യതയും കൂടെ ഉണ്ടായി. അതിനോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ കൃഷിക്ക് വേണ്ടതെല്ലാം കൃഷിയിടത്തിൽ. ഇതായിരുന്നു ഈ കൃഷിയുടെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയ ഒരു അഡ്വാൻസ്. കാരണം നമ്മൾ മറ്റാരെയും ആശ്രയിക്കാതെ നമ്മുടെ കൃഷിയിടം പൂർണ്ണ രീതിയിൽ ഏറ്റവും ഫലപുഷ്ടിയുള്ള മണ്ണാക്കി മാറ്റാൻ അതുകൊണ്ട് കഴിയും. അത് തന്നെയാണ് ഇതിന്റെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയൊരു നേട്ടം. മാത്രമല്ല, ഇന്നത്തെ ഈ 10 വർഷങ്ങളിലുണ്ടായ ഒരു വ്യത്യാസം ഞാൻ കാണുന്നത്, നീലഗിരിയിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തമിഴ്നാട്ടിൽ ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ തന്നെ മുഴുവൻ സപ്പോർട്ടോടുകൂടി ഇന്ന് കർഷകർക്ക് സർട്ടിഫിക്കേഷൻ നടപടികളെല്ലാം ചെയ്തു തരുന്നു. എനിക്ക് ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ സർട്ടിഫിക്കേഷൻ ഉണ്ട്. ഓൾറെഡി ഞാൻ അതിനു മുന്നേ ഓർഗാനിക് സർട്ടിഫിക്കേഷൻ വാങ്ങിച്ചിരുന്നു. എന്നിരുന്നാലും ഇപ്പോൾ തമിഴ്നാട് ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ സർട്ടിഫിക്കേഷൻ മൂലം എനിക്ക് സർട്ടിഫൈഡ് ഫാർമറാണ് ഇപ്പൊ ഞാൻ. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഇന്നിപ്പം ഒരു ചെറുകിട കർഷകൻ എന്ന നിലയ്ക്ക് അന്താരാഷ്ട്ര മാർക്കറ്റിൽ വിൽക്കാൻ പിന്നെ എക്സ്പോർട്ട് ലൈസൻസ് ഉള്ള ഒരു കർഷകനായി മാറി. അപ്പൊ ഇതെല്ലാം ഉണ്ടായത് ഈ കൃഷി ചെയ്തു വന്നതിന്റെ നേട്ടം തന്നെയാണ്. തന്നെയല്ല, ഇന്ന് ലോകത്ത് എവിടെയാണെങ്കിലും അംഗീകാരമുള്ള ഒരു നല്ല കൃഷിയായി ഇതിനെ എല്ലാവരും പരിഗണിക്കുന്നു. മാത്രമല്ല, ഇത്രയധികം സപ്പോർട്ടും ഇതിന് കിട്ടുമ്പോൾ ഇന്ത്യ മുഴുവനും ഇത് വ്യാപിക്കട്ടെ എന്ന് ഞാൻ പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. ഈ കർഷകർക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും എൻ്റെ വിനീത നമസ്കാരം. എനിക്ക് ഇത്രയും ഇതിനുള്ള അവസരം തന്ന എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി ഞാൻ നന്ദി പറയുന്നു.
Thank you, Kumaran sir. Kurian, if you would like to give us a translation in a minute, yes.
I can also do it if Kurian, you have.
Yes, Jayakumar sir, please.
Okay, sir. Jayakumar sir.
Yeah, what Kumaran is saying that he joined by well, thanking everyone and wishing all that he's quite happy to join this this meeting and the group, and he's happy to learn that there is a national level collective network working on this issue, which is making him much more happier. He's a very common, normal farmer who 10 years back attended Palekarji's 8-day class, and that changed his whole farming approach. He was doing conventional farming using chemicals, and he was attending a class in Pune, and there he was explained why pesticides are causing harm. And after learning about that in the Pune class, it was quite disturbing for him. So he was looking for opportunities to reduce pesticide use in his farm, and that is how he searched for and found this announcement of ZBNF class by Palekarji. He went there. He started in a small plot. In 2 to 3 years, he could master the art of doing natural farming using inputs from the farm. And to his surprise, he realized his cost came down drastically. And he was also appreciated and paid a good remuneration for the products from his farm in the market. So that was quite happy for him. And he could, over the years, he meet all his input requirements from the farm itself without any external input for farming, which is a surprising cost saving. And he's quite happy that after 10 years, when he looked back, he has very rich soil, and which is a big gain because he has a healthy soil which is able to give him good output from the work he's doing in the farm. He's also quite happy that in the Nilgiris, the Tamil Nadu government is coming up with full support. He was earlier certified organic farmer, but now the Tamil Nadu government has come up with a scheme and he's certified as an organic farmer. So small scale farmers like Kumaretan, who was selling in local market, could now explore more bigger markets. So he's quite happy that someone who started in a very small marginal farmer, a small scale farmer even today, but he has an export license. He sells to the international markets, and thanks to the government for all the support. And he was also quite happy to see how his products are appreciated from various parts where all over the world, where he's sending it to his clientele who is appreciating him, and they are also telling him about how the world is appreciating organic farming and the natural farming methods globally. And he concludes by saying that he's quite happy that he's part of this larger movement in the country. He wishes all the best for all our farmers, and he's hoping to see that the movement spreads all over the country and making a big wave, and he thanks all of you. That's it. That's what.
Thank you, Jayakumar sir. Thank you so much, Kumaran ji. I think it's the voices. It's so crucial that you came and you gave us this input, because more than anything else, the voices of farmers who are actually doing the work on field is essential. So please stay. I hope we hear you more in the future. So from Kerala, now we'll move to Karnataka. I think one of the pioneering fields of the peasant movement, the natural farming movement, Mr. Palekar gained its reputation from Karnataka. So I have with me Prabhakar ji and Soil Vasu ji. So I pass on over to them to take us through an overview of what's happening in Karnataka, and then how do we take the Southern Coalition, Karnataka Coalition, that contribute to the cause of natural farming across the country. Over to you.
Yeah, Swati, I'm Kshitij here.
Kshitij ji, namaste, please. Yes.
Yeah, so you'll have to allow me to share the screen.
Sure.
Can share the screen. Yes, sure.
Or It's disabled.
Sorry for that. We're still trying to figure out Zoom after a year and a half of lockdown. So just a second, Ria and Kurian, if this can be enabled, the sharing screen. Or maybe Shrutish sir can be made the co-host. Maybe that will also help.
Yes, Kurian is just talking with Min and the host. But meanwhile, Shritish sir, if you can put the link to your file in the chat box, and I can download and share the screen.
I don't know how to do that. I'm technologically very challenged.
Could email fast. That's another option. But
maybe
anyway, I think anyway, for want of time, until you guys are able to sort this out, because there was a 3-page document that we had created, which spoke about the cost-benefit analysis of something called Akkadi Salu, which we are trying out here in rain-fed areas of Karnataka. I work in the Rain-Fed Agriculture Network of India, and I also teach at the National Law School. I teach climate change policy making, and we have to start probably by acknowledging the good work that RRA does at the national level. And in Karnataka, I mean, the very fact that we work in rain-fed areas brings in the component of social justice, because rain-fed farmers, though are the majority, the systemic support that they do get in comparison to irrigated farmers and irrigated lands is loathsome, to say the least. So it is an issue of social justice. And stretching that idea further, RRA in Karnataka works with small and marginal farmers in rain-fed areas. And Karnataka is the second driest state in India. And it's got the most number of districts which are perpetually drought-prone as far as the official records are concerned. So besides probably Bangalore and the Western Ghats, it doesn't rain much as such. So we've been trying at a very practical level to improve the remuneration gained by farmers in rain-fed areas. I mean, that's a very, I would feel that, one of the main factors of rural distress today, which is so systemic, is essentially engineered. So if you need to reverse engineer it, then one of the things that you might want to do seriously is to look at rural livelihood, and nothing better than agriculture. And this we wanted to do by reducing input costs. Secondly, to ensure that agriculture, which is inherently destructive, and that's the other acknowledgement, agriculture essentially has been inherently destructive. And today, you may know, that the Amazon forest, which was the global carbon sink, will in effect become a net carbon emitter because of agricultural practices promoted by the present dispensation in Brazil. So fully knowing that agriculture can be very destructive, the best thing to do is to ensure that farmers in rain-fed areas who are dependent only on rains get into remunerative practice using a culture which is a cultivation culture, farming culture, which is as close to nature as possible. So that is why we hit upon what is called Akkadi Salu. There's absolutely nothing patent with it except probably for the name. Akkadi Salu essentially means it's a practice which is diversity-based ecological farming. And the name itself is very interesting because one of the social reformers in North Karnataka from the 19th century, about 160 years ago, spoke about how even the society in wherever he was has to be similar to Akkadi Salu. So he was talking about a diverse society, diversity-based society, as they practice diversity-based agriculture. So this cost-benefit analysis that we did, which I unfortunately cannot display now, was a 3-page document on how much a farmer in rain-fed area if they practice Akadi Salu, can earn in a year's time. This is of course subject to timely rains, even if it is about 400 mm in the district, and 360 to 400 is the minimum that our districts get. So Akadi Salu is based on not just diversity, it is also based on integrated farming systems. The idea is when you grow multiple crops in an area, and we have gone up to 21 crops in an acre of land, there is fodder, which is nutritious fodder for livestock in the house. And the livestock byproducts are also used in the farm. So it's an integrated farming system, which is what Akadi Salu is all about. We have been able to show that not only do you reduce the cost of inputs, that your yield increases. And this has been scientifically vetted, that yield increases when you have diversity-based ecological farming. And value add propositions are much greater. So altogether, we have been able to show that if there is timely rain and with zero dependence on groundwater, a profit of 1,75,000 rupees is possible per acre of land in rain-fed areas in Karnataka. This is based on studies conducted in Kolar area, which is also one of the driest districts in the state. And we, in the process of doing it, there are certain systemic lacunae which have been identified. So the advocacy in Karnataka through RRAN has been an extremely bottom-up process. So it is based on the experiences of farmers who are practicing Akadi Salu. So even though, for example, the non-availability of diverse seeds made available by the government, starting from there to a lot of other things on how the government can play a role in transition, helping farmers transition chemical intensive farming into Akadi Salu, something like Akadi Salu, is what is our advocacy programs in Karnataka are based on. So I will end by saying, the learning curve has been extremely steep. This is not off the top of the head kind of a discussion. Akadi Salu is being documented scientifically at every stage. And to ensure that there is research which can talk about how multiple crops integrated with livestock and other activities can help farmers get out of the crisis situation that they are in right now. Yeah, so I will end here. It is really unfortunate that I couldn't present this. I can mail it to you guys
can
later.
Present. The access is enabled. Could you just check? You can actually present it now.
Yeah, I'll. Okay. I hope this is visible.
Yes, it is.
And you can see. So this is called Akadi Salu, and Akadi is essentially diverse seeds. Salu would be row. In South Karnataka, we just say Salu Bele, and Salu Bele does not capture the imagination because Salu Bele can be just row cropping, and they can also be monocropping, which is Salu Bele. So Akadi Salu is also grown in rows, but it is diversity based. And so this is the income and expenditure in 1 acre of Akadi Salu farming. And so these are the crops and the livestock. So if you look at the poultry, for example, you start with 1 hen. And by the end of the year, with the inputs that are organized in the farm, they are able to sell up to 22 chicks by the end of the year, by the end of the agriculture cycle. So the expenditure has been documented. There are details of each of these. Is about 80.
Kshitij, is it me or have we lost Kshitij?
Yeah, I think he's dropped off.
Yeah, his audio is actually, I think.
He's
So,
there? Yeah.
Prabhakarji.
Yeah, so I think we'll just bring in Soil and Prabhakarji. If you can, while we wait for Kshitij to join us, maybe we can use this time for interacting with your experience on Akadi Salu and yes.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಪ್ರಭಾಕರ್. ನಾನು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಕೋಲಾರ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆ ಮುಳಬಾಗಿಲು ತಾಲೂಕಿನ ಒಬ್ಬ ರೈತ, ಪ್ರಗತಿಪರ ರೈತ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಸಾವಯವ ಕೃಷಿ ವಿಧಾನವನ್ನ 1997ರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಹಿರಿಯರು ಅನುಸರಿಸಿಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ವಿಧಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಷಿತಿಜ್ ಅರಸು ಸರ್ ಅವರು RRA ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಏನು ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಆ ವಿಧಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಮ 1 ಎಕರೆ ಭೂಮಿಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯ ರಾಸಾಯನಿಕವನ್ನು ಬಳಸಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯ ಔಷಧಿಗಳನ್ನು ಸಿಂಪಡಣೆ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರೆ ನನ್ನ ಕುಟುಂಬದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಬಿತ್ತನೆ ಬೀಜದ ಕೊರತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಯಾವುದೇ ಹೈಬ್ರಿಡ್ ಬಿತ್ತನೆ ಬೀಜ ತಂದಿಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮ ನಾಟಿ ಬಿತ್ತನೆ ಬೀಜಗಳು ಏನಿದೆಯೋ ಅದನ್ನೇ ಬಳಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಮ್ಮ ತಾತ, ನಮ್ಮ ಅಜ್ಜ, ನಮ್ಮ ಹಿರಿಯರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಬಂದ್ರು ಆ ವಿಧಾನದಲ್ಲೇ ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತು ಅನುಸರಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತದ್ರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೃಷಿ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕುಟುಂಬದಲ್ಲಿ ಪೌಷ್ಟಿಕವಾದಂತಹ ಆಹಾರ ನಮಗೆ 9 ತಿಂಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಮುಂಗಾರು ಮಳೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಹಿಂಗಾರು ಮತ್ತೆ ಮುಂಗಾರು 2 ಸೀಸನ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಮ ಕುಟುಂಬಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪೌಷ್ಟಿಕವಾದಂತಹ ಆಹಾರ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಆದಾಯನೂ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಷಿತಿಜ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರು ಹೇಳದಂತೆ ಹೈನುಗಾರಿಕೆ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಆದಾಯ. ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಕೋಳಿ ಸಾಕಾಣಿಕೆ, ಕುರಿ ಸಾಕಾಣಿಕೆ ಇವೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಭೂಮಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಗೊಬ್ಬರ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಯೂರಿಯಾ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಹೊರಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ತರಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಜಾನುವಾರುಗಳಿಂದ ಉತ್ಪತ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಗಂಜಲವನ್ನ ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ದ್ರವ ಗೊಬ್ಬರಗಳು, ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಘನಗೊಬ್ಬರಗಳು, ಅದೇ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಾಶಕಗಳಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ದ್ರವ ಔಷಧಿಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಳಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತದ್ರಿಂದ ನಮಗೆ ಉತ್ತಮವಾದಂತ ಬೆಳೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ಉತ್ತಮವಾದಂತ ರೀತಿಯ ಆದಾಯನೂ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಳೆ ಬೇಸಾಯ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು ಇಡೀ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಮಾದರಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಅಕ್ಕಡಿ ಸಾಲು ಬೆಳೆ, ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ವಿಶಿಷ್ಟತೆ ಇದೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಬೆಳೆ ವೈವಿಧ್ಯತೆ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ತಳಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಬೇರಿನ ವೈವಿಧ್ಯತೆ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಬೇರಿನ ವೈವಿಧ್ಯತೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಎಲೆಗಳ ವೈವಿಧ್ಯತೆಯನ್ನ ಅನುಸರಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಬೆಳೆಯನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆದಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಬೆಳೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೋಗ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಮಳೆ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಬೆಳೆಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ನೀರಿನ ಅಂಶ ಅಲ್ಲ, ತೇವಾಂಶ. ಆ ತೇವಾಂಶವನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಭೂಮಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಪಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಕ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಾವಯವ ಗೊಬ್ಬರಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಒದಗಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಮೊದಲು ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಭೂಮಿಯನ್ನು ಬೆಳಿಬೇಕು. ಭೂಮಿಯನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆದ್ರೆ ಭೂಮಿ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಬೆಳೆಯನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಹಕಾರಿಯಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಬೆಳೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಫಸಲು ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ವಾತಾವರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಬೀಜ, ನಮ್ಮ ವಾತಾವರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಗೊಬ್ಬರ, ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಕೃತಿಗೆ ಪೂರಕವಾದಂತಹ ಬೆಳೆಯನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಕೂಡ ನಷ್ಟ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ನಮಗೆ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಅನುಭವ ಆಗಿರೋದು. ಆದ್ರೆ 1960ರಲ್ಲಿ ಹಸಿರು ಕ್ರಾಂತಿ ನಂತರ ನಮಗೆ ಹೈಬ್ರಿಡ್ ಬಿತ್ತನೆ ಬೀಜಗಳು, ರಾಸಾಯನಿಕ ಗೊಬ್ಬರಗಳು, ಔಷಧಿಗಳು, ಯಾಂತ್ರೋಪಿಕ ಬೇಸಾಯ ಬಂದ ಮೇಲೆ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ತೊಂದರೆಗಳಾಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು ಈಗಾಗಲೇ 61 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲೇ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಅರ್ಥಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ತಾತ, ತಾಯಿ, ಅಜ್ಜ, ಹಿರಿಯರು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತ ಪಾಠವನ್ನ ನಾವು ಮುಂದುವರ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಕುಟುಂಬದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಒಂದು ಆಹಾರ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಆದಾಯ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ನಾವು ಆರೋಗ್ಯವಂತವಾದಂತ ಭೂಮಿಯನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾನು ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಚ್ಛೆ ಪಡ್ತೀನಿ.
Thank you, Prabhakar Garu. I request Srinivas ji. If you can.
I do that. Before me, what my colleague and the guru, my master Prabhakar spoke, he is a dryland under rainfed conditions. Within a limited land, he has cultivated multiple crops. What Kshitij was talking about Akadi Salo. And he says he has combined both the monsoon as well as the Rabi crops together. For about 9 months, he has growing multiple crops. So starting from 3 months after sowing, every month he used to get one or the other crop yields. And he says before he was doing the sowing and other things, the preparation of the land, he was giving much importance to soil fertility. So in that context, he made use of all the available resources locally, and he managed to apply those farmyard manures and green leaf manures and other liquid organic originals like that, and all the other things. And then he started cultivating. This is the thing what he has learned from his seniors. He says whatever the seeds he has used for growing these multiple crops, none of it have been purchased from outside, but all these things have been used, the native seeds, which is in his house only, because it has come from his seniors, he says, and that has been retained and nurtured and protected and used every year after year. And his mother is the person who is giving him the quality seeds like that. And he says along with that, he do have the livestock about the cows and other things. Along with that, he do have some sheep rearing and he do have some chicken rearing also. And from these the whatever the dung and other things he's getting from that, he's the only using that, not in a single handful of chemical fertilizers or any pesticides have been applied. He is taking care of the land and the crops with locally available resources. But one uniqueness, he says very confidently, is that the crops grown in his diversified crops grown in his land, he says there is an uniqueness. Whatever the multiple crops above the land, each crop do have its own root growing system, and each plant have its own root length also. He says that diversity is also helping the crops to grow well together. That's what he says. And he has managed to grow this particular type of Akadi farming since last 16 years. And he is making a lot of, profitable venture. He have lot of, what do you say, the fodder as well as a manure from that only, he says. And he has also made a profit of 1.5 lakhs rupees per year in under rainfed farming systems, only from 1 acre of land. So that is the thing what Prabhakar is to say. And adding to that, some of his experiments and experiences, what we managed to do in 1 acre of model plot last year, we managed to do, that's what Kshitij sir was trying to share about the cost benefit analysis. And we also managed to know or understand the quality of the soil, how it is improving also. So around during that particular season, 7 times we have collected the soil from the land, before plowing, after applying organic farmyard manure, and while during the different developmental stages of plant growth. And even after the harvest also, we have collected the soil samples from the same field, and we wanted to understand the improvement in the soil structure, both physically as well as the biological components, how it has been improved like that. So that has given a wonderful the information that it is possible to grow multiple crops, diversity crops in a single acre of land under rainfed conditions by using locally available resources. And what others say that if you have to transform to organic farming, you need 3 years or 4 years like that. That's all bullshit. That's what it say. It's not true. It's a myth. Within the span of 7 to 8 months, the Prabhakar showed how soil can be improved, how the land can be improved by adopting this multiple or diversity-based ecological farming systems. So this productivity study, what we call it as, which addresses the cost-benefit analysis, which also talks about the cost component, the money what has been spent or money what has been gained, and energy component, the environment component, the genetic richness component, and the social life component. It gives all positive things are there in this particular diversity-based ecological farming systems. And that's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So for others in the participants group, I think you can follow Mr. Srinivas Vasu, as he's very popularly known as Soil Vasu. And I think I follow him on Facebook, and he's a repository and a knowledge house, knowledge hub of everything related to soil. It's a pleasure to actually read your thoughts and your content on a daily basis. So thank you, sir. So from Karnataka, we are moving to Andhra Pradesh. I was waiting for a few of our colleagues to join from AP, but I think because of some technical glitch, thanks to Zoom, we are not able to have them on board right now. So you have to endure me, and I'll be able to justify the amazing work that is happening in Andhra Pradesh. So as I mentioned earlier, I work as a project executive in the Andhra Pradesh Community Managed Natural Farming Program. This is one of the scale programs that we are trying to bring and address a variety of issues. That is the farm crisis. We are addressing climate change crisis. We are addressing the village level crisis, and it's an ambitious program where currently we have 700,000 farmers enrolled in the APCNF program, and the extension mechanism is that we operate via capacity building, farm to level extension, and farmer to farmer dissemination. And this all is done via the amazing social transformation that is happening with the social capital that Andhra Pradesh have, thanks to the self-help movement that has been being done from the last 2 decades. So women self-help groups and their federations that have been matured over the last 2 decades are the focal point where this conversation on natural farming begin. So our experience previously has been that it is not so. When discussion on agriculture is majorly restricted to men, majority if you see. So if we keep just discuss with men, then the women are kept aloof. If we just discuss with women, the men are kept aloof. So I think the scale is not being achieved. So by means of the women self-help groups platform, we're trying to start the discussion at village where we bring both men and women in the discussion of farming. So this is what has led to this the understanding that women understand agroecology better because they understand and are able to much better see the impact that chemical farming has on soil, in the kitchen, in the food that they serve to the children and the family. So the buy-in is more, the understanding and the adoption is more. So we believe that agroecology can only be disseminated or steered or pioneered by women and for everybody. So that is what the program is achieving. But saying that apart from the APCNF program, there is an immense work that is being done by civil society across the state and beyond. So we have 30 in the program itself. We are working with field NGOs. We have 38 field NGOs who are working in various capacities across the districts. Now, what role does civil society play? A scale program cannot do innovations. Innovations, experimentation, model development is the work being pioneered by civil society, and to scale those, to replicate those is the work of a scale program. So we are looking at civil society help the program, the program to generate that kind of models, on the field, of the field, for capacity building, health and nutrition, for because every civil society comes with its own regional diversity, it comes with its own strength in social capital, it comes with its strength in model development, capacity building, and health and nutrition, marketing, value chains. It's an immense plethora of work to be done. So that is the role being played by civil society, and we have 5 resource NGOs also. So I would like to name them. So that is AF Ecology working in Anandpur. We have Center for Sustainable Agriculture, which is supporting the program in value chain, and it was also a field NGO as well as human resource development across the state, along with working on biodiversity blocks, seeds, etc. And also support the program in marketing and others. We have Vasan with its strength in livelihoods and integrated farming systems, along with they're working in fisheries, they're working in Gulli Ragi methodology in tribal areas, biodiversity blocks, etc. We have Kovel Foundation. I hope Krishna Rao sir is also here. Kovel Foundation and Jattu. These are the 2 organizations who are working in the tribal areas, working with the tribal communities on livelihoods, natural farming, and we believe that they are the tribal areas are the low-hanging fruit that can actually steer the entire natural farming movement ahead. Apart from the civil society organization embedded in the APCNF program. There are many others who are working at the local level. We have many federations, we have many civil society and FPOs which are working and taking the cause of natural farming ahead. I'm very sure one more aspect that we haven't covered is that the techies are taking up natural farming. I think this is really booming, especially in southern India, where we have IT professionals, we have corporates and many others who are actually coming back to their roots, to the villages, and supporting in and taking up various innovations in adopting agroecological practices and helping the value chain and supporting it. So these are the work which is happening in Andhra Pradesh, and there are many more. If I have Krishna Rao sir or somebody from Jattu, if you want to add 1 or 2 points, it will be great, just to support what is the civil society innovations we are happening.
Good morning, everybody. This is from Jattu, Espra Raj speaking. What I heard from the experiences of from various states, similar is the experience with Jattu. The experience is very positive. What prior to launch of this APCNF, we all know organic farming was practiced here and there sporadically. By that time, it was severely criticized as a pseudoscience. But nowadays, due to able leadership of our Vijay Kumar sir, day by day we are getting scientific evidence, and our feedback from farmers is also quite positive. They have good response. By now, we are working in 174 villages. Out of that, in 93 villages, 100% farmers are practicing organic farming, and they are 100% bio villages. Similar is they have adopted in this practice in field crops like millets, paddy, and they have also practiced in mango and cashew. And the inputs they were using, that Jeevamrutam, Panchagavya, buttermilk, those were criticized. It may not be effective, but our experience is otherwise. It is quite effective, and the immediate evidence that we are getting is earthworm population is increasing everywhere. That is very convincing to the farmer. And health hazard for humans, health hazard for livestock has also reduced. And not to say about the cost of cultivation, it has come down drastically. And so in every front, we have benefits of organic farming. There is yield increase, there is a cost benefit ratio also increased, and health-wise also we are getting benefit. And in Jattu, we are having produced many literatures, which is very helpful for neo-literates in pictorial forms. On organic farming, which is a set of booklets of 18 we have some short video films, and for your information, we are also producing a feature film, 2.5 hour feature film called Amrita Bhumi, that may be released within 6 months or 1 year. That is in progress. So that is all about Jattu's experience. Thank you all.
This one of civil society is working in the tribal area in the district in Andhra Pradesh. So I will come to Uma Shankari Narenji. Just give me, if you can give me 2 minutes, sir. I have a champion farmer, Banuramma Garu. We are trying to just try this to reach out to her. She is not able to join the Zoom call because of some technical glitch. So my colleague will put her through phone call. Jena, is it possible? Can you connect Banuramma Garu while we have Uma Shankari sir speak?
Actually,
yes, she's actually online right now, Swati.
Yeah.
So we can actually talk to her right now.
Okay. So
okay,
let us just give it a try. So just to give an update, why we have called Banuramma ji here is that she is a champion farmer from Anandpur, one of the driest districts in the country, and we are here to felicitate her because recently she spoke to the Honorable Prime Minister of the country and via a call, a virtual call, and she was praised because of her dedication and determination in taking up an innovative model on pre-monsoon dry sowing, and the sheer amazement of the Prime Minister hearing the work that Vanurama Akka has done has been commendable. And I think she has been actually taking natural farming to more than 200 women farmers across Anandpur and tribal areas. So let us hear from Vanurama Garu. Akka, మీరు వినపడుతుందా మీకు? నమస్కారం అక్క. చాలా మంది ఉన్నారు ఇక్కడ వింటున్నారు. మీకు మీరు మీ గురించి మీరు చేసిన పని 2-3 నిమిషాల్లో చెప్తారా?
ఓకే ఓకే
చెప్పండి అమ్మా, చెప్పండి.
నమస్తే మేడం, మాది కళ్యాణదుర్గం మండలము, మా ఊరు వచ్చేసి దుర్గకుంట. నా పేరు ఉన్నరమ్మ, నేను ఎస్సీ ఒంటరి మహిళ. నాకు 4 పిల్లలు, ఒక కూతురు పెళ్లి చేసినాను. 2018లో సాధికార సంస్థలో ట్రైనింగ్ అయ్యాను. అక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చి నేను నాకు 4.5 ఎకరాలు ఎస్సీ అసైన్ ల్యాండ్ ఇచ్చారు. దాన్ని 2 ఎకరాలు ప్రకృతి వ్యవసాయంలోకి మార్చుకుని నేను ఒక ఎకరాకి 1 సంవత్సరంలో 3 పంటలు తీసుకున్నాను. నాకు వచ్చేసి 30,000 ఖర్చు అయింది. నేను 1,05,000 రూపాయల 1,05,000 నాకు లాభం వచ్చింది. నా చుట్టుపక్కల ఎస్సీ వాళ్ళు 20 మంది ఉన్నారు. వాళ్ళగా నీ దిశకి తీసుకుని వచ్చి ఇటు చేసుకోమంటే వాళ్ళగా నీ సంవత్సరం చేసుకుంటే ముందుకు వచ్చిన.
సరే అమ్మా, ఇప్పుడు మీరు చేసిన పని ఎట్లా ఇంకా రైతులకి ఎట్లా తీసుకుని వెళ్దాము అనుకుంటున్నారు?
ఇంకా నేను ఈ విధంగా చేసి నేను ఇంకా 170 మంది రైతులకు నేను ఈ విధంగా చేసుకోవాలని వాళ్ళకు సలహా సూచనలు ఇచ్చాను మేడం.
సరే, ఇప్పుడు ఈ ప్రకృతి వ్యవసాయం పంటలు పండిస్తున్నారే, మీకు ఏంటంటే లాభం వచ్చిందక్క?
మీకు లాభం ఏమొచ్చింది? మీరు ప్రకృతి పంటలు చేస్తారు కదా, అది దానికి లాభాలు ఏమొచ్చాయని అడుగుతున్నారు.
లాభం వచ్చి 1,00,000 రూపాయలు వచ్చింది. 1,05,000. నేను 30,000 ఖర్చు పెట్టాను, నాకు 1,05,000 వచ్చింది మేడం ఒక సంవత్సరానికి 3 పంటలకి.
ఇంకా వేరే ఏమైనా లాభాలు వచ్చాయా మీకు?
ఇంకా మేడం ఇంక వేరే లాభాలు అయితే ఏమీ రాలేదు. ఇప్పుడు మళ్ళీ పంట వేసాను, నేను మళ్ళీ నవధాన్యాలు వేసాను, కూరగాయలు వేసాను, వేరుశనగ వేసాను.
సరే, ఇంకా ఏం అనుకుంటున్నారు అక్క? మళ్ళీ ఫ్యూచర్ లో భవిష్యత్తులో ఏం చేస్తారు? మీ 4.5 భూమి ఉంది కదా, సో ఇంకా ఏం చేయాలని అనుకుంటున్నారు?
నేను నాకుండే భూమి అంతా మొత్తం అంతా ఇది ప్రకృతి వ్యవసాయంలోకి మార్చుకోవాలనుకున్నాను. అక్కడ ఎస్సీ ల్యాండ్ 30 ఎకరాలు ఉంది. మొత్తం ఆ ల్యాండ్ అంతా ఆ విధంగా చేసుకోవాలనుకున్నాము, అందరూ కలిసి కట్టుగా.
సరే అక్క, థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్. చాలా ధన్యవాదములు అక్క. మీరు ఇక్కడ ఉండే ఇంకా మంచిది ఉండేది, కానీ మీరు వచ్చారు, మీ టైం ఇచ్చారు, చాలా చాలా ధన్యవాదములు.
ఓకే ఓకే, థ్యాంక్స్ మేడం, థ్యాంక్స్.
Thank you, Akka. So that was Vanurama ji. I want to just translate. She has spoken about that she is a SC farmer, and she has 1.5 acres of land, and she has been doing natural farming since the year 2018. Jena, you can also correct me because my Telugu is not that great. Okay, so if I'm missing out on the numbers, you can help me out. And she has been, yes, so she has been doing natural farming from the last 2 to 3 years, and she has taken up the innovation of pre-monsoon dry sowing. And when I asked her what is the benefits that she achieved from natural farming program, she said that she has got around 1 lakh rupees of benefit. I asked her how she wants to take this knowledge to other farmers. So she said that she's been helping and supporting work for around 170 tribal women farmers, and she wants to in the future she's currently doing a lot of vegetables on her field, and in future she wants to take natural farming to more villagers in her area. So that was in just what Vanurama Akka told, and I will also share her case study with you all. I have Uma Narenji. Sir, thank you so much for your patience. Can you please tell me? Yes, madam, good, please. You are muted, ma'am.
Mute, ma'am. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, namaste, and I'm very happy to be here as part of this national coalition. So what I would like to say is that we are all here already completely convinced that natural farming is not only good for the soil, the planet, the health, and so on, but is also economically viable to some extent. in any case, the farming sector is not, like the IT sector or some, that kind of sector which will give us great incomes. But the point is to be floating above losses and getting some profits so that we can continue to be reasonably viable. But so I have been doing, with my husband for since 1993. We have been doing organic farming in about 10 acres, and we have grown many crops. But if we go on talking only about, all the good things that has happened and not face some of the challenges which are happening in the times, I think we would not be doing justice to either the natural farming experiments or to the future farmers who are, coming into this with great enthusiasm. So some of the challenges I would like to, so I'm already saying that I agree with all the speakers. It's good for in every way for many things, but we need to also face some challenges. So one of the challenges we have been facing is that, due to continuous too much borewell drilling around us, water has simply disappeared, and without water, it's like almost it's impossible to do anything. At least we need watering for critical irrigation in rainfed farm. So we were very fortunate to have irrigated farming from 1993 to 2012. But after that, there's been such a drop in water that we've had severe problems in that sector. And we are trying to become rain-fed farmers practically, and with all the uncertainties in climate and rainfall and all that, there's been a big drop in returns. Second problem we've been facing, and I think farmers all over the country is facing, is the way labor costs have increased, and labor availability is also a very big problem, because farming is not something which we can do by like sitting in front of the computer and doing your own stuff. You have to have, there are peak times at which we need more labor than the family labor, and if the labor costs are going to be so high, it is going to be a very big problem. So these two challenges we have to face on a larger scale. One way of doing it is like how Ramanjanelu was trying to say, that we need to make it a village kind of a program with enough support from either the government or some big body like National Coalition for Natural Farming. In whatever way we have to try to do that. It's not easy, but still. But then we'll have to think of various ways, like smaller machinery, how to bring down the labor costs, and how to also meet the challenge of watering is something we have to do. In the meantime, I just personally, I don't have an NGO of any sort, but in the meantime, I do want to put forward a small bit of a contribution from my side. That is, we have a fellowship in the name of my husband, Gorepat Narendranath, where I've been doing not only natural farming, but also participating in various social movements. On his memory, we have this fellowship, which we now want to give. For the last 10 years, we've been giving it to human rights activists, but from this year onwards, for next few years, we want to give it to any young person who would want to come and work in my village and take care of my farm, because I'm also getting older. I'm now almost getting to be 70 years old, and I've also shifted to Hyderabad and not able to live there just by myself. So I would see, I'm already working, and nearby farmers are also slowly switching to organic farming. But workers, they're not doing it with as much interest as I would like them to. So that is why I would like a younger person to come and manage the farm. 10,000 rupees per month is not much, but still, whatever it is, that is what we can offer. And if some support can be had from a larger program or an institution, I would welcome it in, so that the person will have the benefit of a peer community to interact with and take this forward, both at the individual level of the farm as well as our own community of people. We are already part of the cluster of Andhra Pradesh, government program, the ZBNF program, in which some farmers are coming forward to, take it up. But, to make it, to expand it, we have this fellowship, which we can offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Uma Garu, and we'll definitely touch base with you, and it will be really because there is amazing resources out there who would be really ready to take up that fellowship, and we have a natural farming fellowship also that we'll definitely would like to see through with you. So thank you so much. From Andhra Pradesh, now we move to Tamil Nadu. I think we have people from Keystone Foundation, Jyotika ji. So if you can. Is there anybody from Keystone Foundation here?
Yeah.
That's me, Jyoti here.
Jyoti, hi.
Shall I share the screen of PPT?
I didn't see anyone sharing PPT, so we can just do without it as well, but it's up to you. So do we? Yeah,
we will share that anyway. You have made it and send it to us.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. So hello everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. I think this is my first time attending a meeting with the coalition, but pretty excited to be here because I see a lot of similarities in what we are trying to do in Tamil Nadu. What I'm going to be talking about is not quite representative of the state, but perhaps representative of the the work that we do with the tribal communities here, the tribal farmers. Just to give a context about the organization, as well as the work we do, it was founded in 1993. And as you can see, there are some core programmatic areas that we focus on, and these areas actually evolved sort of organically over time. And if I were to sort of zoom in and just focus on the livelihood agriculture component, I would be able to sort of talk specifically about it, but also there is a lot of linkages here that, the interconnections between these programs that influence livelihood, influence agriculture productivity, agricultural outcomes for the tribal communities, their impact on their life, well-being, well-being of the environment, or let's call it the ecological well-being. All of that can be sort of established. So in a way, these programs sort of evolved organically over time because we were able to see these interconnections. When we talk about agriculture, how can we not address the water issue? When we talk about health and nutrition, then we automatically see a connection to agriculture and what is being produced and what is being available to the tribal community. So all these interconnections. And the point about the pollinators that Lyosa brought up, I didn't know that he was going to be part of this meeting, but he recently retired, but continues to be associated with Keystone. So it was a bit of a communication gap between us. But nevertheless, so the whole role of pollinators, bees as pollinators, all of that and biodiversity, all of that has a lot of relevance in the different programmatic areas. And as you see over time, all these sort of knowledge has led to incubation of a lot of institutions. One specifically that is relevant to this conversation that we are having is the Farmer FPO, the Tribal Farmer FPO that was established in Kotagiri, and the experiments around it has sort of led to creation of more, smaller FPOs in other regions. And also different alliances and networks that we are part of. And now with the NCF coalition, that's another network and coalition, I guess we can say proudly that we are going to be engaged with and excited to be engaged with really in future. Next slide, please, Kurian. So this is just to give a brief background on the sort of the history of the livelihood interventions in that we work with the tribal communities. And before that, I think I forgot to sort of set the context in terms of space. We work in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, and the big part of our interventions, relatively speaking, is in Tamil Nadu. But we also work closely with communities, tribal communities in Kerala, and a small segment in Karnataka as well. Kerala primarily in Wayanad and Nilambur. So some of the organizations are sort of familiar to us, particularly in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So the initial focus, and we work primarily with indigenous communities, and within the indigenous communities, we work very closely with communities that are classified as particularly vulnerable tribal groups as per the Government of India norms. There are some 6 such communities here in the Nilgiris. And I think it started off as an eco-development initiative to address a lot of the livelihood securities that are faced by these communities, where initially the focus was really looking at forest-based livelihood, promoting sustainable extraction of these products, helping them market these products, honey being a very important, forest-based product in this whole sort of production system. Followed by certification that allowed for improved market returns, more sort of sustainable approaches to both extraction and marketing, basically. Now, over time, because as I said, again, very sort of organically it happened, where we looked at this linkages between what people are consuming. What is the big sort of the percentage of the income that comes to them? How is it being sort of utilized in terms of their own sort of well-being and wellness? And what we found that there was not much of an emphasis on ensuring, there's food security that is provided by the PDS system, and for the most part, they are part of the PDS, the public distribution system. But in the case of tribal communities, there are also big population who are not part of that system. So what happens to their food security and nutritional security? We started seeing a lot of issues around health and, and even sort of very sort of conventional, I guess more mainstream, health issues like blood pressure and sugar and diabetes and all that, anemia and other issues with the communities. And this led to sort of a focus more on looking at agriculture and agriculture production as an important sort of emphasis area for us.
Just to intervene, you have 2 minutes because we want to close at 29. So, okay. And so if you can, if it's a, sorry for this really goof up, but we really are in short of time. Okay. And the last one suffers the most. That's the problem. Sorry for that.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. And yeah, just to sort of quick shorten it a little bit then. So a part of the motivations for a lot of our agriculture interventions has been to look at really livelihood security, food security, nutrition security, empowering women farmers, and the larger sort of goal of individual and community well-being, which has been the sort of the motivating factors for us to work with these tribal farmers. Marketing and production systems have been an important aspect of these, because we can focus on production, but post-production, what happens to the produce? How does it get marketed? Because that's eventually how the farmers are going to benefit. So how does that benefit really reflect, gets reflected on farmers' lives and farmers' livelihood improvements, and all of that became sort of an important emphasis, which led to the creation of these farmer producer companies, looking at certification as options and so on. In terms of very specific, what we do, or rather a focus on agriculture production has been really emphasizing agroforestry production systems, the sort of the relevance of it, the ecological benefit, and the social benefit of engaging communities in agroforestry production systems. This is just a sample of how an acre of land would look like in terms of the types of crops that we support and promote. And these are obviously indigenous and local and locally viable crops. More recently, we have also started promoting traditional food crops such as millets. These are also climate resilient crops. So a lot of the issues and concerns that people raised earlier in terms of rain-fed agriculture, water security issues, climate change issues, all these are sort of, it resonated very well with the issues that we see with the farmers here. So, really kind of systematically thinking, relying a lot on the traditional knowledge, the local knowledge that the communities have, and trying to sort of revive a lot of them, support in bringing them back to, to sort of making it more functional and relevant is what we are sort of trying to do and help. Next one. And yeah, and part of that process, we're also looking at localized bioinput production, setting up seed banks, supporting seed savers, which is an interesting thing, I think, what we're trying to do, because there are some people with specific sort of interest and keenness and understanding of seeds and seed saving. So we are identifying these communities, people, individuals from the communities, and sort of supporting them in terms of saving local seeds, saving indigenous seeds, and so on. Some of the future plans, obviously, to scale up and expand some of these interventions. I've listed a few here, looking at alternative or diversified farm-based livelihoods with the tribal communities. If things that can be done on fallow lands, can we look at other crops such as medicinal plants or other cash-based crops that might bring in additional income to farmers, using some of these approaches that are being asked here today. A lot of institutional linkages and support, obviously the coalition and the work it's doing, and the tremendous sort of knowledge that's been shared today, are very excited to partner with some of these and see how it can be replicated here in this landscape. And I think there's also a big emphasis that we put on understanding impacts. So there is the intervention, there is the experiment, there is the trial, the piloting, the scaling up, and all of that. But I think we're also very keen to understand what are the final outcomes. How is it impacting the environment? How is it impacting the natural resource base? Are these practices really indeed helping in regenerating a lot of these natural resources that we are concerned about? Looking at carbon sequestration, even from a marketing point of view, can we think about more local economies, shortened supply chains that reduces the carbon impact? These are some of the sort of innovations or new ideas that we want to sort of, and I think the coalition has enough knowledge and resources to sort of, collaborate on some of these ideas. That's it. Thank you. Oh, these are some photographs, but we can skip them if there is no time. Yeah, but these are just showing some of the farmer landscapes. They're trying to do the bioinputs, local production, and all of that. Yeah, she's one of our farmers from Mudumalai Tiger Reserve. So we work with a community there called the Irulas, and Inlands is very close to the Mudumalai Tiger Reserve. And I think she's just sharing some thoughts about her experiments, but looks like there is an issue with the volume, with the audio.
Kurian started from 0, right? We can't hear.
Yeah, I can't. I think there's a problem with the audio.
Kurian, I can share my screen. Can you all see?
Yeah.
You all see the screen?
Yes.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can.
தனிமையாக படகாசுகிட்ட மாடு எல்லாம் மேய்ச்சிட்டு இருந்தோம். அவங்க நாங்கள் வித்துட்டு போகிறோம்னு சொல்லும் காடெல்லாம் ரொம்ப புதராக இருந்துச்சு. அப்போ நாங்கள் கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சமாக காடு வெட்டிக்கிட்டோம். காடு வெட்டி அதை விவசாயம் பண்ணோம். விவசாயம் பண்ணோன்னா பெருசாக எல்லாம் ஒன்றும் பண்ண முடியல நம்மனால. கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சம் ராகி சோளம் அப்படி போட்டுட்டு இருந்தோம். அப்புறம் அப்படியே போட்டு இப்போ பீன்ஸு அந்த மாதிரி செடிங்க எல்லாம் போடுறோம். இயற்கையாக நாங்கள் போட்டதில்லை. அப்போது கடையிலேருந்து மருந்து வாங்கி வந்து யூஸ் பண்ணிகிட்டு இருந்தோம். இப்போ வந்து ஆர்கானிக் அந்த ஒரு மருந்து இந்த எருவு கொடுக்குறாங்க, அதை நாங்கள் பயன்படுத்துகிறோம். இப்போ வந்து ராகி சாமை எல்லாம் விதைச்சிருக்குறோம். விதைச்சி இப்போ அந்த இதெல்லாம் எடுத்துட்டோம். எடுத்து வந்து அதை நாங்கள் சாப்பிட்றதுனாலே நம்மளுக்கு கொஞ்சம் பலம் ஹெல்த்தியாக இருக்குது. இப்போ அந்த மாதிரி எல்லாம் ஒரு நோய் எல்லாம் வர்றதில்லை. நாங்கள் வந்து அந்த ஃபுட்டையே நாங்கள் இப்போ இந்த எண்ணெய் அது இது ஆயில் எல்லாம் யூஸ் பண்ணுறதில்ல. கீரை வகைகள் சாப்பிட்றோம். அதனால் இப்போ எங்களுக்கு கொஞ்சம் ஆரோக்கியமாக இருக்குது உடம்பு. அந்த ராகி இது எல்லாம் விதைச்சிட்டு இருந்தாலும் உரம் எல்லாம் போட கிடையாது. அப்படியே தான் வெறும் நிலத்துக்கு நாங்கள் அந்த ராகியை விதைச்சிடுவோம். அதை வர்றது எடுத்துக்குவோம். அப்படியே இருக்கும்போது என்ன நாங்கள் இந்த உரங்கிறது நாமளே தயாரித்து உரம் போட்டால் நல்லா வரும் அப்படின்னு நாங்கள் ஒரு மீட்டிங்கில் கலந்து பேசிக்கிட்டோம். அப்புறம் சரின்னா அந்த உரவை தயார் பண்ணி மண்புழு உரவாக மாற்றி அந்த உரத்தை வந்து தோட்டத்துக்கு போட்டுட்ருக்குறோம். அதை பார்க்கும்போது நல்லா தினை பிடிக்குது, நல்லா பூவெல்லாம் உதுறதில்ல, நல்லா அந்த முத்தெல்லாம் நல்லா பெருசாக வரும். அப்படி நல்லா இருக்குது இந்த தினைகள்.
Jyotiji, would you like to translate?
Well, I think, yeah, very briefly, she was basically talking that, I mean, I'm not an expert in Tamil, but nevertheless, she was basically talking about how initially they sort of, the forest was not doing well and they didn't have any sort of opportunity. So they cleared some forest land and started doing agriculture. Then initially they would grow all kinds of things, beans, they would use, owing to market pressures or whatnot, they would use chemical based farming, but over time things they shifted. Now they focus more on growing millets and different varieties of millets that she listed, and sort of going back to some of the traditional practices, more organic based practices, where they have started producing their own locally producing the bio inputs that would then sort of was sort of fed to the land. And that has shown a lot of good results, is basically what she said. And that's just a very sort of a brief.
Thank you so much, Jyotiji. That was such a pleasant experience to have a slice of the field to watch. It was really amazing. I am really so I think we have covered the entire southern region, and we have an immense paucity of time, and I'm really I don't think I can spare 2-3 minutes if anybody wants to speak, because I would like to hear from Vijayanand sir his reflections on what we discussed today. So before that, just one participant for 2-3 minutes. I know it's really my gavel of injustice is right now very, very hard, but I really apologize. If anybody wants to give their reflections before I call upon Vijayanand sir.
Madam, I would like to spare some 2 minutes kindly. This is Dr. Dravyam from ICR Krishi Vigyan Kendra. So we have been working with organic farmers right from our inception during 2005 onwards. We are actually documenting several achievements, particularly the farmer producer companies. The FPO, the Karur Moringa Farmer Producer Company. In fact, I wanted to share that Mrs. Saroja's videos and all. I have given to Mr. Kuriakos. So she is doing excellent work.
We have exhibited this in our anniversary website.
So she's doing excellent work. So from Moringa, various products, organic Moringa, the products, and she's also developing entrepreneurial activities for the nearby communities. So that way she's doing excellent work. So I think everybody should find time to see the video, and this is supported by NABARD. So we have been supported by NABARD in promoting organic farming. We are also doing this PKVY program supported by CSA. And we would like to have a kind of a marketing tie-up for the organic produce. That is what I wanted to share in this house, a concept called adoption of a village and adoption of a farmer. Every household, if they have a kind of an arrangement, so that it can be a tie-up, the produce will go directly to the house. We had a discussion with the apartment dwellers in Trichy, and it was facilitated by St. Joseph's College. So there we had the apartment dwellers, and we gave these ideas. So there is small activities going on. I think this should go in a larger way. So that way we would like to give more impetus. And I think due to want of time, I don't want to share more on this. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you,
But
Dhirevesh.
we will definitely share those videos, and Kurian has mentioned it has gone on the website. And before losing any time, because they'll close the session in 4 minutes, Vijayanand sir, over to you, the reflections on what are the discussions we happened and how to take ahead the Southern Coalition. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. There's not much time. The big points I saw, that was a brilliant comment that network should bring strengths, not weaknesses. And that it is a steep learning curve. And the next statement that you can shift to natural farming in 9 months. So they are all big lessons, women in agriculture, and lobbying for fair subsidies to natural farming with the government. And this kind of certifying agency, government certifying agency, which makes it easy, which Telangana and Tamil Nadu highlighted. But one thing which was not much highlighted was marketing, though Dr. Dravyam mentioned the adoption village kind of thing. Now, certain specific things which are mentioned, which are of relevance for taking forward, organic FPOs. It's a great idea. And that is mentioned in the context of Telangana and the whole country that is possible. And another small item, but extremely important, I have not heard much of it in the discussions on pollination and pollinators. So that is, I think, relevant for large agroecological zones. Then a brilliant idea is what is called Green Army, for the agricultural labor to be skilled and made it into teams so that there is a turnkey solution, much like the SHG, but in a larger area, particularly in urban areas. That will be great. And use of students, techies, into organic things so that in the future generation, you can get it. They may not be doing big things in terms of acreage, but their understanding is very important for the future. Then, of course, media, big media, to get interested, giving one column for natural farming or organic agriculture every week. All of them have agricultural pages. That is again a great idea. And looking to cooperatives for support, cooperative banks for support is very local, and they can easily be trained, and they are open to giving to the local people. And what Swati said, why we use NGOs for developing models, for innovations, and government adopts it as the proof of concept for taking it higher. And another point is the authentic farmer testimony. Initially, not by guarantees, but by authentic farmer testimony alone. What we saw, many of them, it can be taken forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a really, really good reflections on the session. And I think we are positive with 2 minutes. So if I request, if everybody can switch on their videos, I know this is the new age technology of a group photograph. If you can just switch on your videos, say hi, hello to each other. I'm sure many of you are friends and colleagues. Just greet each other because we'll be closing in 2 minutes. We don't want to rush anybody. So if you can just interact, wave each other, that would be great. And maybe Kurian or Ria can take a group photograph possibly for future purpose. Yes. Venkatraman sir, yes. Saroj ji, Bharat ji, Sudhakar ji, lot of people from across the state of Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Kerala.
Yeah, I think Ria is on it, right? Yeah.
I've taken quite a few. Thank you so much.
Thank you each and everyone for being part of this.
And really
We are,
apologize for the
Thank you,
technical glitch.
everyone.
There are a lot of colleagues who couldn't join. There are a lot of miss and match happening, but I think this is all part and parcel of our learning. We'll be able to learn from this and improve in the future. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.